As you know, most of the ISIS fighters that we captured, not Obama, we captured them. Our country captured them, working with others, including the Kurds. And we helped them. Don't forget, we helped the Kurds. Everyone said the Kurds helped us. That's true. We helped the Kurds. They're no angels, but we helped the Kurds. I'm the one that did the capturing. I'm the one that knows more about it than you people or the fake pundits. We have a good relationship with the Kurds. But we never agreed to, protect the Kurds. We fought with them for 3.5 to 4 years. We never agreed to protect the Kurds for the rest of their lives.
He never stops taking my breath away. What you witnessed there was some of the president's ignorance, his delusions when it comes to American foreign policy, his disdain for protecting American allies. In this case, it was the abandonment of the Syrian Kurds, our closest, most reliable allies in the fight against ISIS, and his disregard for keeping the world safe. Because, of course, the withdrawal of troops in Syria has now left a path wide open for the resurgence of ISIS. His grasp of the situation wasn't already in question. Here's a tweet he sent yesterday, which he's since deleted, quoting his defense secretary, Mark Esper, but calling him Mark Esperanto instead. And that's not all. The tweet was riddled with unsupported statements, and there were reports that administration officials were confused by the quote, since Defense Secretary Esper hadn't said any of the things Trump quoted him saying anywhere publicly. And for the ultimate depiction of how Trump's Syria policy is being received around the world, here are our friends, the Syrian Kurds, earlier today, hurling potatoes and other produce at U.S. military vehicles as they pull out of northern Syria. Joining our conversation in the nick of time, former Republican strategist Steve Schmidt. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
Where are we?
We're in trouble.
Yeah?
You see America in retreat, literally, with those trucks driving out of hard-won territory precipitously with no care to how the withdrawal is done. And I do think it's legitimate to have a discussion about U.S. national security strategy in the 18th year in Afghanistan with no end in sight and across the broader Middle East. But we see from this the strengthening of the Iranian regime, the strengthening of Vladimir Putin and Russia. We see hundreds, if not thousands, of ISIS fighters have been freed from detention. They will go back to the business of terror and killing. He has destabilized the region, and he sent a signal to all of our adversaries all over the world, which is this: now is the time to make your move, because the United States is in retreat. The U.S.-led liberal global order that emerged out of the Second World War, that was architected by FDR, Trump is dismantling it. What you heard was rhetoric today that could have been straight out of the 1930s, from the era of isolationism that led to the world's greatest tragedy. And what came after that was the United States filling the role as the world's indispensable nation. And we are clearly deeply in an hour of retreat on that front. And we don't know what the consequences of that are 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. But we will be feeling it for a long time. And it's not just this. It's his decision to pull out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was celebrated with cheers in Beijing as he cedes the United States supremacy as a Pacific power.
Let me go, and I take your point about interventionism. You and I have had debates over the years about isolationism, interventionism, but this is different. ISIS, these are terrorists. Yeah. And these aren't al-Qaeda terrorists whose plots are as detectable by intelligence agencies around the world. These are, ISIS fighters going back to Europe is something that Trump seems to think doesn't imperil Americans here at home. This is not we cover this as a foreign policy debacle. This is also potentially a terrorism debacle.
Of course it is. It's that we saw the brutality, the violence, the mayhem for years of the Islamic State. You have thousands of ISIS fighters. They're not going to go into a jobs training program. They're not going to community college. They're going back into the business of killing and killing Westerners. It's a profound security threat for the United States. And of course, when you look at the totality of this situation, you look at Turkey's aggressiveness in its actions, and it's very quickly followed by the Turkish president saying that he wants Turkey to have nuclear weapons. And so what we see is a destabilizing of this entire region another round in the metastasization that we've seen play out now for 20 years, this one authored solely and clearly in the mind of Donald Trump, not listening to advisors, not listening to experts. He pulled it out of his hat, and the country is less safe because of it.
Are you surprised? I mean, I know you stepped away from sort of the daily coverage of the Trump administration, but I think since you've been gone, Mattis has resigned. It was over this Syria policy. You spent time in Iraq. You understand better than people that haven't been part of our military what exactly the Kurds do. They fight alongside us. We trust them with the lives of our greatest treasure, the men and women of our military. He cut and run on them. To see images of Kurds throwing produce at American tanks, I've never seen anything like that.
Before Donald Trump, we would have understood the concept of national honor, that we don't cut and run on our allies, the people that fought with us, that United States foreign policy is not built on transactions, it's built on values. And the Kurdish fighters helped implement a successful policy. United States Special Operators, Special Forces, Special Operations Command, working with the indigenous fighters, the Kurds, who suffered 11,000 to 15,000 casualties in the fight against ISIS. But it was not American conventional ground troops in the fight. And that was a positive development across the whole history of our wars in the Middle East since September 11th. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump cuts and runs on the Kurds, puts the Kurds into an alliance with Tehran and with Assad, because it's the only place they can go, and to Russia. And that will weaken us in the long term in a region where America's presence is likely to be elongated, not truncated, because of the rashness of the decision.
What do you think keeps the people there who are still there? They watched this. They sat in a tank briefing or they sat in a sit room. They either read about it on Twitter when the White House had to confirm that, yes, in a call with Erdogan, Donald Trump said, we're getting out, we're turning over northern Syria to the Turks. Pompeo was apparently on the call, I think. But what do you, I mean, we worked in the White House. What do you think is happening in there when you see this?
I'm happy you jumped back in there because my pause would have been longer than Pompeo. I think it's clearly that people have a fetish for power, a proximity to power. And I think from earlier in the conversation, listening about the debasement, the depravity, the dishonesty, all of it accumulating, all of his devolvement, to this point that we're at this afternoon. But there's no evidence that any Republicans in the Senate are going to put their obligations of their duty and their oath above their fealty and allegiance to Donald Trump.
Not yet.
I mean, if that happens, it will be remarkable given the fidelity they've shown to him thus far.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.